I was done filming for the day. So I just finished my dadcast talking about Agatha all along and kind of the culture war, socio-political jargon that's going on with that show when there's none to be found. And I was like, all right, that'll go up on Tuesday. I'm recording this, and I recorded that on Monday. I was like, that'll go up on Tuesday. It'll go up along with Josh Hasn't Played, a new episode of Josh Hasn't Played. And I was like, oh, I'll have two things up today, just like today, Monday, I have two things coming out. I've got the Goku review as well as my reaction to the Thunderbolts trailer. So Tuesday we'll have two things, but it won't be the Agatha thing. And Josh Hasn't Played. It will be the Agatha discussion, and then my discussion here about Space Marines Warhammer 40K and what the CEO of Saber Interactive may or may not have said, and the culture war. Is there something in my beard, or is that just no? That's just the light hitting. Probably some gray hairs in my beard. Sorry. And the culture war that is going on about this, and I'm going to post this on Tuesday along with the Agatha discussion, because the Agatha discussion I talk about how the right is overreacting, and in this discussion I will be talking about how the left is overreacting a bit, and it's all because I'm kind of in the middle kind of thing. I kind of have some left leanings, I have some right leanings, but I'm mostly in the center. And I think in this world a lot of people in the media and stuff purposely try to divide us kind of thing. Because rage bait is all the rage. Ha! Dad joke. I'm a dad. Rage bait is all the rage, and it gets views, it gets clicks, it gets people engaged in Twitter and Facebook and all those different algorithms to make money. So I just feel like society in general, when it comes to media consumption, they don't have a level head about things. They want to piss you off and make you enraged, and no nuanced discussion anymore. It's we're right, they're wrong, kind of thing like that. No shades of gray. It's black and white. So I try not to be like that. I know there's nuance in everything, and I try to look at all different points of view of something, and that's how I get my opinion on things. I try to empathize and sympathize with both sides and try to figure out what someone is saying and why they're saying it. I also play devil's advocate a lot, and it pisses my wife off so much when she's mad about something. I'm like, well, honey, maybe they're doing this because of this. She's like, shut up and just agree with me. And that's not how our marriage is. I'm just talking about, like, sometimes minor things, like if she's having like an argument with she never argues with her mother, but I'll say, like, if she's having an argument with her mother, I'm like, well, honey, maybe your mom means, like, nope, agree with me, and kind of those minor things. So she's like, shut up and agree with me. I was like, okay, no devil's advocate here. But in more complex things in life and stuff like that, she does appreciate my my ability to try to put myself in the other person's shoes, kind of thing like that. But yeah, so here I'm going to discuss on why the left is doing a much ado about nothing. So there was a YouTube video out about Warhammer 40K, Space Marines 2, and maybe the CEO of Saber Interactive. What is his name? Because I've got the comment here, but I don't see his name attached to it anywhere. Matthew Karch, Karch, Karch. I don't know. Apparently, maybe, possibly, it's not been confirmed by Saber Interactive, nor have they denied it, so there's all kinds of discussion about it. But here is the comment. Hey man, CEO of Saber here. I love your videos. When we signed the deal to make Space Marines 2, all I wanted was a throwback game. We had a chance to work on something which by its nature was old school. I can't even comprehend many of the current games that we play these days. They are too complex and too much of an investment. We worked on Halo back in the day, and that game could be distilled down to simplest of shooting loops, but it was entirely addictive. That is what we wanted to recapture. I hope that games like Space Marines 2 and Wukong are the start of a revision to a time when games were simply about fun and immersion. I spent some time as Chief Operating Officer of Embracer and saw games there that made me want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers. We just want to do some glory kills and get to the heart and get your heart rate up a little. For me, that's what games should be about. I mean, pretty harmless quote. I'm looking at it this way. He just wanted to make a fun game where you're a big brooding dude and you're killing a bunch of freaking aliens. I mean, that's kind of how video games started. Like one of the earliest games, Space Invaders. You're a little missile or a tank thing, and you're going back and forth, and you're killing aliens. Galaga, same thing. You're in a spaceship shooting aliens. So it's the basic of what games are. Games should be something that you get entertained by and are addicting, and you have fun. It's a fun hobby. We play. Me personally, I like playing a lot of fun platformers. I like playing games with deep story and just fun game mechanics. I get a mix of everything. And basically, and what people are jumping on is overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers. And there has been a lot of that lately in games. And I know there's that whole thing with Sweet Baby Games, Sweet Baby Inc., what have you. And that whole thing where they've been consulting on a lot of Western games, and there's the complaint about Western games where they've made women too ugly in them to attract modern audiences and things of that nature. And some of it there's where there's smoke, there's fire sometimes, but I mean, a lot of us who play games, we don't want to be preached at. And I'm one of those people. There's a time and a place for preaching and things like that. When I'm just relaxing with an adult beverage, kicking back in my very little free time, because I'm a full-time employee, I'm a full-time dad, I'm a full-time husband, part-time baseball coach. I don't have a ton of free time. In fact, a lot of my free time that I get is like 10, 11 o'clock at night when everyone's gone to bed, and I can just pour me a bourbon and sit up here in my man cave and play a game, maybe stream games, things like that, and just have that me time. And I play games that I like to play, and I don't really want to be preached at in those games. Generally speaking, when it comes to entertainment, I don't want to be preached at all. I just want to be entertained. And you can, get messages in through entertainment. And you can do it very effectively if you're smart and intelligent, which most game writers, whether they're trying to write games to be entertaining and stuff like that, aren't that smart and intelligent. Like, they try to write these deep narratives, and it doesn't quite hit the nail on the head. I mean, for example, I'll say Hideo Kojima. I love his games. They're so great. Weird, especially Death Stranding. Hideo going way off the rails. But it's fun. I love the Metal Gear Solid games. As anyone knows, I've got my complete Metal Gear Solid collection of Japanese releases over on my shelf over there, with Snake, one of my McFarlane toys, original release from like 2000. Snake guarding them, and he tries to get deep with his storytelling and stuff like that, and he hits sometimes and he misses a lot of times because it's a video game. It's an interactive narrative. It's really hard to get that deep with storytelling because you have your deep storytelling and you have these breaks where you're just fucking shooting people. So but yeah, so games becoming like very moral and preachy in certain ways is kind of annoying, and it detracts from the game. Like, if you're going to tell a story, whether you're trying to impose morals, where you're trying to teach a lesson, things of that nature, one, you got to keep it simple, which most of these games do not, and also it's got to be in a way that it works with the games. So I mean, the CEO of Saber, maybe it's him, maybe it's not, allegedly, he just wanted to make a fun shooting game. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't want to impose morals on it. He thinks that that's being done too much in the gaming sphere. And depending on where you fall, it may or may not be. But, like, outlets like Kotaku and other, like, left of center game makers and stuff like that have attacked Saber Interactive online about this, since they haven't confirmed or denied whether or not this is the CEO who made this comment. They've been called anti-woke, just trying to start a culture war or things like that. And again, much like I talk about in the Agatha video, which I'll link at the end of this, in my end card, and I'll make sure the Agatha video has an end card to this, so you get both perspectives of this weird conflict we have going around in entertainment today. But it's much ado about nothing. I mean, we don't know where his allegiance lies politically. I mean, he could be very far left. We don't know. He just said he wanted to make a fun, entertaining game. That's not trying to preach to you. That's not trying to give you a moral thing. You're just a big buff space marine killing aliens, man. That's all he wanted to make. And to really overblow this comment is ridiculous. And it just, again, it shows you kind of like how both sides just want your clicks, and they want your rage clicks. They don't have anything really insightful to say. They just know if you're on a particular side of the political spectrum, you're going to click that link because you want your confirmation bias confirmed. So if you are on the left and you think we need to have 100% inclusivity, that every game needs to represent every culture, every sexual orientation, every gender or non-gender or things like that, then you're going to click this and be like, that dude's the fucking devil. And then, again, with my Agatha thing, if you're on the right and you're thinking that all media, it has this leftist agenda that they're trying to indoctrinate kids and things like that, then you're going to click on that because Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige, they're the devil. So it's just one of those things, man. It's like, again, I said in the Agatha video, if you feel like Warhammer 40K, Space Marines 2 is not for you, if you want, something like what's that new game? Well, Concord, even though that's canceled now, but that was very inclusive, at least with the cast. I never got to play it before it got canceled. I was going to try it out, but it got canned before I could. Shit. See, I just play like single player story driven games like Final Fantasy that don't do that kind of thing, so I'm at a loss for that. But if you want to play a game that has more of a message, there's plenty of games out there for you. Ignore Warhammer, ignore Saber Interactive CEO, if that was him. And then just play your game and don't worry about this game, kind of thing like that. And don't worry about the Saber Interactive CEO, again, if that was him making the comment. So it's just one of those things. It's just like, it's a much ado about nothing. Because, again, he was just saying, like, he's not even saying, like, he just said, like, he saw games that made him want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging. And he said overblown attempts at messaging and imposing morals on gamers. Not like just attempts, like overblown attempts, like beating you over the head with a hammer kind of messaging, which is annoying whenever it is. Like I said, you can have messaging and teach morals and things like that inside of interactive entertainment and all kinds of entertainment. You just got to do it subtly, because whenever you feel like you're being preached to, like, and I do it all the time, because again, on some issues I'm right of center, on some issues I'm left of center, even if it's something I agree with, but the moral and everything is just beating me over the head like a hammer, it turns me off. I don't, even if I agree with you, I don't want to be preached at. Entertain me, like, entertain me. You're supposed to be entertaining me. Do that. Don't preach to me, even if I agree with you. It's just annoying. And it's even worse if you don't agree with whatever's being preached at you, and it just turns you off from the movie you're watching, the show you're watching, the video game you're playing, and things like that. Like The Last of Us. I'm not the biggest fan of The Last of Us, but I think it has a decent story to it. And it does, at least the first one, because I played through a good chunk of the first one. Have not played through the second one at all, because like I said, I'm not a big fan of it. It's something I didn't want to go back to. But it does kind of have a really good story to tell about morality and how morals can change given your situation and what you're in, like kill or be killed kind of situations and things like that. It's like at the very end, spoiler for a game that's been out for a decade now, over a decade now, wasn't it 2012? Damn, Last of Us is old. But for a story like Ellie, if they allowed the doctors to basically kill her and dissect her, might have had a cure for the clickers and saved humanity, but Joel couldn't do that. That was his surrogate daughter. He could not allow that to happen. And so there was a good moral, right, wrong, shades of gray kind of story there, and also something that I think any kind of story that tries to talk about morality and a message kind of thing like that kind of also leaves it open for the viewer to interpret too, but also to get them think about that interpretation. Like a lot of people might think like, yeah, if I'm Joel, I'm killing those doctors and things like that, but then maybe get you to stop and think of like, but I mean, maybe. Or take Bioshock, for example. A lot of people get the wrong message from that game because Ken Levine has even talked about it. It seems like it's a very anti-capitalistic message to it, because you've got Andrew Ryan and he creates Rapture because, it's kind of inspired by Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, kind of thing like that. It's like the government and their taxes and their regulation are getting in the way of business, and business is what's better for the people, and we need to start our own society under the sea and things like that, which not inherently a wrong aspect. I like to joke that I'm like a real world Ron Swanson sometimes, especially when it comes to government and taxes, especially taxes. Man. I live in Virginia. Personal property tax is the biggest joke in the world, where I own a house, I own a car, and the government still wants my money from it, even though they got a ton of money on the sales tax when I bought those things. But yeah, it's kind of like that is inherently not a bad idea, to allow free market society to thrive with very little interference or no interference from the government. But it's a nice little bubble where, especially if you read the book Rapture to see the prequel to the game, when you wall off your society in an underwater city, and you have one man in charge of everything, and you're not allowed to leave that society, well, that creates problems. Because then people who signed up are like, oh yeah, I want to live in this free market society, but like, it's not for me. They can't leave. So it's kind of like, we've got a good idea, it gets corrupted, because like any ideas, man as a species has got to implement them. And a lot of the times when someone has absolute power, it becomes with absolute corruption. But it's not just on the side of Andrew Ryan. There's Fontaine/Atlas in the game. It's the other side. Like, they took advantage of this free market and created a corrupt society to try to overthrow Andrew Ryan. So again, like, some people took that Bioshock was anti-capitalism, which it is not. But it takes the idea of unbridled capitalism and kind of gives you kind of like a worst case scenario for it, and then you can kind of build your own messages, build your own thought about a society like that, free from government interventions. And there's some good points and there's some bad points, because sometimes you need some regulations, because like the plasmids, like that got out of hand really quickly in Rapture. And if there was some regulation to it, like you can only buy it if you're a certain age, or you can't sell these plasmids because they're dangerous, like the fire plasmid. If you're in a pressurized society underwater, no one should be able to shoot lightning or fire from their hands. Just, you shouldn't be able to do that, because that's very dangerous in those things. So it's again a fun story to play through. There are morals to that story, but they're very subverted. Not subverted, they're very below the they're subdued, they're below the surface, and you can kind of get your own messaging from them, but it makes you think about those messages and about those morals. But in the case of Warhammer, they just wanted to make a game where you shoot aliens, and that's fine. Every game doesn't have to have a message, and we don't need to be beaten over the head with that. And if you're someone who doesn't want to be preached at in video games, then you don't want those games. And you can say that, you're like, you know what, I wanted to try this out, but it was too preachy for me, and it turned me off, and I didn't want to buy it, and that's your choice, kind of thing like that. Just like the people who have a problem with this comment, don't buy Warhammer 40k, don't support it. Like, if you want your games to have like a deep moral message and to agree with you politically, buy those games. Don't buy games that don't do that. So much like my discussion about Agatha all along, and this video is actually way longer than I expected it to be. It's just we're being very ragey and clickbaity, and we're trying to piss each other off. And it's just one of those things, like, I want to create a positive. My channel, the whole point of it is for nerds, not even nerds, man, just people who like video games, people who like action figures, wrestling, and comic book movies. Well, movies in general, not just comic book movies, to come together and have a positive space to discuss these things. I mean, even like in my negative review of the N64 upscaler, I wasn't overly negative about it, because even if it's a product I'm not a particular fan of, I don't want to be super negative. I mean, it does have its positives. It allows you to play your N64 on your TV. I just thought it was too expensive to do that. So yeah, it's like trying to create a positive space. So I don't want to be clickbaity. I don't want to have rage bait kind of thing like that. I want to have an open discussion, like a nuanced discussion with people about these things. And it's kind of like, again, I'm a capitalist. I believe speak with your wallet. Speak with, don't try to like be loud on the internet, because that's a void. Don't do that. Like, if you don't like something, don't buy it. Don't watch it. Leave it alone. Ignore it. It goes away if enough people do that. And then you can also see if it doesn't go away, if it gets sequels and it's successful, then, people want that. And you don't have to go along with the majority. You can be like, yeah, not for me. Like, there are plenty of popular things I don't particularly like. Like I said, The Last of Us, that's a huge video game franchise, but it's not for me. It's like, the game mechanics are fine. It's a real downer of a story. And generally speaking, I don't like downer stories for entertainment. It's like every once in a while, I'll watch one. The Iron Claw, for one. It's just a depressing movie, especially like the last third of that movie is just suicide watch people. Like, if you know someone suffers from depression, don't let them watch The Iron Claw. So every once in a while, I'll watch something like that. But for the most part, I like most of my entertainment, especially video games, to be more of a happy experience kind of thing like that. So that's what I generally go for. So again, Last of Us, and for the record, I have not watched The Last of Us show, because again, I know the story, and I'm not big on the story. It's a real downer and depressing, and that's not what I want from entertainment. So I passed on the show. I hear the show is really good, and I've got nothing against the show or the video game for that matter, and for the people who enjoy it, just not for me. So it's, again, even if something that you disagree with or don't like turns out to be popular, that's okay. You can still not like it. You can still not play it. You can still not watch it. But yeah, I just think like we're too divided these days, and people like to make memes about it. It's like the world has never been more divided, and then it shows like Austin versus Rock, WrestleMania 17, kind of thing like that, or WCW versus NWO, Monday Night Wars, which are funny. Sega versus Nintendo. But those were usually civil disagreements and divisions. Like, I'm a big Rock fan, I'm a big Austin fan. Go Sega, go Super Nintendo, and you just kind of argue on the playground. But even if you were on the Nintendo side, you'd go over to your friend's house and play Genesis, and vice versa. You'd come over to your house and play the Super Nintendo. So, and they were more civil divisions. And now, today, it seems like everyone's yelling at each other. If you can't have a civil discourse. You can't just say, well, I disagree with that. And people are like, oh, okay, well, that's your right. No, it's like, I disagree with that, and you're Hitler for having your opinion, which that's a whole nother subject of how everyone calls everyone else Hitler or Nazis, when I just feel like you need to like really read up on history, just see how evil Hitler and the Nazis were before you just go spouting that off because someone called you a man and you identify as a woman. I mean, they're not Hitler. They just didn't know most of the time. So, but yeah. So like I said, try to keep things positive here. Again, this is much ado about nothing. You've got like all these leftists really leaning in hard on Saber for not confirming or denying this. And again, all he said was games are too preachy sometimes these days, and he just wanted to make a fun game. There's nothing wrong with that comment. Because that's what he wanted to do. I mean, the preaching could have been on the other side, and he could have said the exact same thing, and probably meant it too. It's like, even because we don't know that this messaging, he disagrees with the message. He just says he doesn't like that in his video game. So, I mean, a lot of people are inferring this man's political belief based on this comment. He might agree with the messages in these games because, like, we're making video games too preachy. Remember when they were just fun, where you were a little circle eating a bunch of things, and then you'd eat ghosts before they could eat you? Remember that? How addicting and fun those games were? Let's make games like that. Let's not have this over politicized, preachy platform. Let's just make fun games, and that's what he wanted to do. So yeah, again, much ado about nothing, kind of thing. So yeah, so today, Tuesday, when this airs, I've hit both sides. I've said my piece on both. Was like, come on, folks, let's just we're overblowing these things. We're not really getting a clear message out there. We're looking for things to disagree about, and it's kind of like, let's stop that. Let's just, like, when there are real issues to tackle, let's tackle those issues, and everything else let's just kind of leave to the side. But that's all I have to say about that. I'm starting to ramble now. So if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Leave a like, leave a dislike, even if you disagree with me. If you like Decisive World and you're like, no, it's black or white, you're wrong, you're right, there's no nuance, leave a dislike. But thank you also for watching. If you want to hear more of my ramblings, more of my gameplay videos, I'm doing more and more modding. I might mod my N64 to be HDMI output. That will be a fun disaster. So yeah, reviews, stuff like that. Go ahead and give us subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you want. I have like one notification turned on, and I like subscribe to like over 100 YouTube channels, so I'm not offended if you don't want to be notified. But yeah, just come back, binge my videos when you get a chance. Appreciate the viewership. But as always, I want you to have a great the rest of your day. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.